Minigames are a staple of the entire JRPG genre, and especially in the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era, Final Fantasy had its fair share of minigames for players to use to procrastinate taking down the game's main villain. Some of these are universally looked back on really fondly, such as Final Fantasy VII's Chocobo Racing and 8's Triple Triad, but Final Fantasy X's signature minigame Blitzball has always been significantly more contentious. Opinions of this minigame seem so extreme either way. Personally, when I was playing casually as a kid, I loved it, but there's a reason that the official Final Fantasy X speedrunning Discord is named the Blitzball Haters Club. For speedrunners especially, there's always going to be stronger opinions when these minigames are not only forced, but when certain outcomes provide a powerful reward. To give an example of a less polarizing minigame, in the intro of Final Fantasy IX, Zidane and Blank perform a choreographed fight scene that plays out through a series of QuickTime events. You get a hidden score based on how quickly and accurately you respond to these inputs. If you nail every single input quickly, your reward is 10,000 gil, which is a pretty major bonus to have before the game is even really started. When runners first visit Limblum, they synthesize some cotton robes to sell at a profit. This is an old school infinite money trick, but in the speedrun we do use it. We'll get 3 or 4 to spend on gear and consumables later, but if the 10,000 gil bonus is collected, runners can synth 9 cotton robes, which extends that gil benefit even further. Runners can now skip a lot of chest pickups they'd otherwise be required to grab for routing, such as this ether in the Tantalus ship that saves about 12 seconds, and this mithril dagger outside Dr. Tot's house that saves about 8. Between the skipped chests and the extra items that we can now buy, the total time save is about 1.5 minutes. This isn't required though, and with how random and volatile Final Fantasy IX speedrunning is, a run that collected the Noble's Gil bonus can very easily lose that lead against a run that didn't, and the minigame goes for a fixed duration, so you'll never lose time within the minigame itself. With all of this in mind, this minigame doesn't typically heed any strong opinions either way. It's nice to have that Gil bonus, but it doesn't really cause any other issues otherwise. Interestingly, this Gil bonus doesn't exist in the Japanese PlayStation version. Blitzball, however, provides a much more powerful reward, and the minigame itself is significantly more volatile. To break the game down super simply, if for some reason you've never heard of Blitzball before, it's turn-based underwater FIFA. The goal is to get the ball, swim it over to the opponent's goal, and shoot it in, fending off attackers as you do. Each interaction is effectively stats rolling against one another. When you shoot, it pits the player's shooting stat against the keeper's catching stat. Passes can get blocked by defenders' blocking stats, tacklers will whittle down the defense stat of the player holding the ball, and so on. The issue is that there's RNG involved here. The rolls can vary within a range of the base stat. I've seen an attacker with a 10 stat roll anywhere between 8 and 12, for example. Additionally, there's variation in how the opponent characters will move and make decisions. There's one Blitzball match that's forced as part of the game's story, where your team that hasn't won a single match in over 10 years faces off against the best team in all of Spira, who typically win the cup every year. It's a real coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb situation. This means that your player's stats are significantly lower than the opponent's. Luckily though, you have 2 ace in the holes. Tidus has a special move, the Sphere Shot, which is pretty much a guaranteed goal, but you only have enough HP to use it once. Additionally, Jasu's swimming speed is faster than anyone in the Luca goers, which is good for evasion. So the game plan is as follows. Pray that you win the opening blitz off. If you don't, hope that Grav runs into all 3 defenders where he is relatively likely to lose the ball. If they fail, pray that you get a hold of the ball some other way. Once you have the ball, get it over to Jasu, and start a conga line as you do laps of the sphere. In the second half, we want to score 1 goal. We once again pray that the Aurochs get the ball before the goers score and get it to Jasu. In this story match, a cutscene plays and Tidus gets subbed out for Walker at about the 3-minute mark on the in-game clock. What runners aim to do is have Tidus swim over to the goal at about the 2:30 mark and try and score as close to that 3-minute time as possible to give the goers as little time with the ball as they can. Since Walker enters the field, it forces another blitz off. And finally, we pray that we win this final blitz off and either do laps with Jasu or hide behind Keeper, which freaks out the enemy AI. The problem for runners is that so much is up to chance when the goers are holding the ball. Our players can roll really low on their tackles, or our defenders might get distracted and swim around to random places in the sphere, and keeper's awful catching stat lets just about any shot go through. Why would you shoot? It literally can't go in. Okay, never mind, I guess it can. All that just to lose. So there's 2 minutes on the Blitzball game itself. Furthermore, anytime a player passes, shoots, or tackles, the in-game clock pauses. So if the goers decide to just pass it around between themselves, you can lose a lot of time in stoppages. Even furthermore, the defender that almost always interrupts Titus on his way to the goal has a really good blocking stat and a really good attacking stat. So runners need to either risk them high rolling against Titus, or let the defender drop Titus's shooting stat, making your goal attempt less likely to go through. And God forbid you end the match with a score of 1-1. This leads into overtime, which is an insane amount of time loss. Yes, runners could get Jek shot on the boat, but the cutscene that plays after when you get Jek shot is about 50 seconds longer than what plays out when you fail, and the animation for the Jek shot itself is also really long too. So the minigame is awkward and really random, but earlier I alluded to Blitzball providing a reward, and an incredibly strong one too. So, what is it? This strength sphere is awesome. It allows any empty node on the sphere grid to be converted into a +4 strength node. This is a massive boost to the attacker's power. It's used just before the Seymour fight at the Makalania Temple, and if Blitzball is lost, the really severe effects are immediately felt. There are some minor time losses here if Blitzball is lost. We need to steal a Lunar Curtain in the Thunder Plains and buy some extra items in the inn. If you're experienced in both routes, players will typically only lose about 10 to 15 seconds on the small stuff, but let's look at the more significant aspects. With Titus having 4 less strength, he needs to cast Cheer in the first phase of the fight to boost his strength, which allows him to take out Seymour in a single hit. When Anima is summoned, Riku and Kimari now need to throw some elemental damage items to help Titus' damage output. In all, this fight is probably about 10 seconds slower, but given that most fights in the Final Fantasy X speedrun are in very much fixed turn orders, variance in fights is really uncommon, and time loss in them is far more severe than it seems. While escaping, the party gets caught by 2 Guado Guardians. If the runner won Blitzball, they simply flee from both of these, but if they lose, you need to fight them both. The time loss varies based on the fiends that spawn in, but it's about 10 to 15 seconds per fight. On the HD version, this is way worse. Titus can actually outrun the Guado Guardians, so he now needs to sit and wait for them, which actually makes this time loss closer to 40 to 50 seconds. This is to get some extra AP that allows Titus to pick up some extra strength to make up for what was lost. This allows the Wendigo fight shortly after to play out the same between both routes. Beaconell Island is the major source of time loss. The current speedrun route is based on getting Yuna's stats incredibly high to allow Bahamut to one-shot everything later on. Eventually, she needs to pick up all of the strength and agility nodes that Titus has been collecting throughout the run. Typically, she'll teleport to where the strength sphere was used and carry on from there, following the same path as Titus. But with that +4 strength now missing, she needs to get this strength from somewhere else. The most elegant solution runners have found is to have her teleport to this other +4 strength sphere, and then friend sphere over to Titus, and follow his path backwards. At this point though, runners don't have a friend sphere. They need to get one from a hidden chest in a side room after the second forced fight in the home invasion sequence. Typically after the Dual Horns fight, runners move forward and then fight the Chimeras. But now, runners need to go about halfway down the corridor, then run backwards to the hidden room, fight another set of Dual Horns, enter a code to unlock the chest, and get the friend sphere from it. The player is also just about guaranteed to get an extra encounter during this hallway run as well. If you're lucky, This costs you about a minute 30 and some extra time spent in Yuna's sphere grid as well. And finally, the last major hurdle is the Evray fight. This is arguably the hardest boss in the game due to it being uncharacteristically variable. I'll go into more detail in the hardest bosses video, but here's a little sneak peek. When near death, Evray will cast haste as a last ditch effort to defeat the player, so speedrunners need to carefully navigate around its HP threshold. Luckily, one of its turns is spent inhaling, and on the next turn it will breathe poison gas onto the party. With the +4 strength, runners can take out Evray before seeing this poison breath attack, but now that we're a bit weaker, we need to throw that Lunar Curtain we stole a few hours ago to cast Shell on Tidus. This allows him to actually tank the poison breath and finish the fight after. This time loss is also variable, but it's around 15 seconds. So there we have it. Well over 2 minutes of time loss, not including the Blitzball match itself, and that's assuming that the runner is experienced in both the Blitzball win and loss routes. More time and even the entire run itself can be lost to unfamiliarity with the strat changes, and any time spent hesitating or thinking during a fight or a menu is immediately felt as well. And yes, 2 minutes in the context of a 10-hour run may not seem like a great deal, and for most runners it isn't, but as a player improves, they have less and less room for mistakes and time losses. Passing the 3-hour mark with this pending time loss hanging above your head like a dark cloud is a real confidence breaker too, and with where the game is today, I don't see a world record being possible for a run that lost Blitzball. This is, of course, unless you're playing the Japanese PlayStation 2 version. See, much like the Gil bonus from the Nobles minigame, winning Blitzball also doesn't give you a strength sphere. The reward for winning Blitzball on the Japanese version is just a Phoenix down. It's kinda nice not needing to worry about getting the strength sphere, but even then, intentionally losing Blitzball isn't necessarily easy, and the goers can still troll you and cost a decent chunk of time. There are plenty of other minigames in the series that speedrunners despise. Don't get me started on literally anything in Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy X-2 definitely has some weird minigames in its 100% speedrun as well. But I think it's safe to say that this is the most hated minigame in all of Final Fantasy speedrunning. Maybe after the hardest bosses series is all wrapped up, I'll launch a new series, the worst minigames in Final Fantasy speedrunning. Maybe not. Thank you so much for watching though. Final Fantasy X is actually my main focus over on Twitch right now, so if you do want to see some Final Fantasy X speedrunning, definitely give me a follow over there. And thank you very much to the Patreon supporters as well. It's just $2 a month, you get an extra video, and access to the Discord for some fun behind the scenes stuff, and we also get to vote on a monthly speedrun challenge. Last month we did Castlevania 4, which was really fun, and there's definitely some more exciting stuff to come in that regard. So thank you so much. If you want a way to support the channel, your free option is to just subscribe and send the video to a friend. But if you do want to very kindly throw a couple dollars my way, Patreon's an awesome way to do it. And aside from that, thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you next time.